Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. I'm Craig Garber, host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. What you may not know about me is that I'm also the author of the book, How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. And since March of 2000, I've been running a busy marketing consulting firm. During this time, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be brutally honest with your answers. Do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? Is your business website consistently generating new leads and making sales? Is it making you any money at all? If not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it consistently making you money? And do you know how to use social media effectively to market your business? If any one of these questions are puzzling you, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me if your business qualifies. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thank you for listening, and now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and I've got just a fantastic guest with us today, and it's a real honor and a privilege to have Paul Nelson with us. I saw Paul support. Paul is Johnny Winter's guitar player. In addition, he's got a tremendous career, which I'll go over in a second, but he's got a new album out. It's beyond good. It's like I never expected a blues album to be so interesting, and I'm a blues guy. His new album is called Badass Generation. We'll talk about some of the songs, but let me give you some of Paul's background. He wasn't only just Johnny's guitar player, he's also one of the most original blues guitarists I've ever listened to, and I've listened to everybody. You know, I put him up there in the category with Mike Bloomfield, Leslie West. I mean, he's got a very unique style, and it's not like the same old recycled shit, but just faster. Well,
you could say recycled on the air?
You could say, yes, you could say whatever you want, man. I'm from the Bronx. Paul's recorded and toured with the following artists: Slash, Vince Gill, Joe Walsh, Warren Haynes, Government Mules, Susan Tedeschi, Derek Trucks, Sonny Landreth, Eric Winter, Leslie West, Joe Bonamassa, Dickey Betts, Rick Derringer, Brian Setzer, Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, Eric Clapton, Derek St. Holmes, Joe Perry, Billy Gibbons, Mark Knopfler, Joe Walsh, I said Joe already, Pat Travers, Elvin Bishop, Kim Simmonds from Savoy Brown, talk about a great guitar player, Los Lobos, Tinsley Ellis, Lucky Peterson, Ronnie Baker Brooks, Mike Zito, J.T. Taylor from Kool and the Gang, Joe Louis Walker, Steve Vai, Samantha Fish, Papa Chubby, Mark Naftalin from Paul Butterfield, Ronnie Earl, Sonny Landreth, Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees, Uptown Horns, Ben Harper, Hubert Sumlin. Holy shit.
Take a breath.
Yeah, man. Bill, I feel like that old FedEx commercial. Remember
I'm
that?
done.
Yeah.
I play with it. That's
He's
it.
played with everybody. I mean, he's been on Late Night with David Letterman and Jimmy Kimmel Live. And both Paul and Johnny Winter won Grammy Awards for the Best Blues Album in 2015. And Paul still feels the loss of his friend and mentor, but of course he recognizes that new creative endeavors are ahead. He also got a Grammy Award for his work performing on and producing Johnny Winter's Step Back release on Megaforce Sony, winning Best Blues Album of the Year, highlighting his already long list of Grammy nominations, as well as the BMA Blues Music Award for Best Blues and Rock Album, reaching number 16 on the Billboard Top 200 and staying at the Billboard Blues charts for weeks, which is a miracle. In modern day, blues music, right? It is
with all the albums coming out. Yeah.
He's also a recipient of the Blues Foundation's KBA Keeping the Blues Alive Award. Staying at number 1 on the Hot New Releases charts for a month, his new CD, Badass Generation, on Sony Records, still maintains an unmistakable connection to the blues, but it also rocks hard like old school music from the 1970s. This is really a great album. I listened to this like probably 3 or 4 times, and it's in my permanent rotation now, and we'll talk about some of the tracks on this. Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and
thank you. And thank you for running out of breath on that. I appreciate it. Each one of those you mentioned, it just sparks a memory of where I was with this artist and that artist. And when it's all going on, you're not thinking about resume or that kind of thing. But then you turn around and it's like, wow, where did this? I've been very fortunate. Before Johnny, during Johnny, and now even after. I studied for years. I went to Berklee College of Music and studied with some heavyweights. And I've always been a guitar player, songwriter, arranger, producer, that kind of thing. And, so fortunately I met Johnny and we did a lot of stuff together. He was one of my idols. Any guitar player, I recommend learn Johnny Winter stuff, along with Hendrix and that, but those guys were neck and neck. But I'm still building that resume, but there's only a couple that Jeff Beck would be a nice one.
Man, I interviewed Jennifer Batten yesterday, and I interviewed Carmen Vandenberg. Yeah, she was so much fun. She was great. She had some really interesting Beck stories. It was
she had some very complimentary things to say to me at NAMM, because she would see me play with Johnny, so it was really nice because she noticed that I play blues, but I'm also in that world that she's in, the theoretical kind of thing. So she noticed that. I'm a big fan of Beck and fusion and that kind of thing. So we always hit it off really well. So she's really cool. She's great.
Well, cool. And if you're listening to this, Jeff Beck, Paul Nelson might be interested if you put the right thing in front of him. Hey, you've worked with so many people, and I was wondering if, I'm going to just pull a few names out for each of these guys. Can you tell us how you got the gig, the nature of what went down, and if there's any cool stories from your experience, and if you got something out of the experience, did you pick up something new, maybe about playing or about entertaining, or did you observe somebody behaving in a certain way that you put that a feather in your cap?
Well, in answer to that, always musicians, including myself, were like sponges. So I learned something from everything, even when I'm sitting there analyzing their solos in Pro Tools, which is where I really learned their phrasing and I really learned what makes them tick. So go ahead. Sorry.
Is that what you do when you're working on solos? You'll put it in Pro Tools and you'll watch it right in there?
Yeah, I'm seeing it's a great way to visualize what's working over the chord changes.
Interesting, yeah.
And to see how how these guys are phrasing 2-bar phrases, 4-bar phrases, 8-bar phrases, 2-beat phrases. Johnny would shift gears every 2 beats.
Yeah, that must have been fun.
The way that we'll get to the other stuff, but I really this is my technique. And I think it applies to every musician, because no matter what you learn, if you learn double stops and slides and bends and trills and glisscendos and playing a scale upwards or downwards or in intervals or in cycles or whatever, why are you learning all that? Because you want to have a toolbox of stuff to choose from, arpeggios included, so that when you're playing within a phrase, and like clockwork, a 4-bar phrase starts and ends within 4 bars. It doesn't spew over, and it only spews over when you don't know how to count and you're not feeling phrases. So you learn all this stuff because every time a new phrase occurs, you either repeat something identically or you switch gears to one of these other things in your toolbox. So I would see these artists that would play a 4-bar phrase based on some kind of idea or triplets or whatever. And then as soon as the next phrase came, not only was it a start of a new phrase, it was a start of a new idea. All of a sudden it turned into double stops. All of a sudden it turned into slides. All of a sudden they went up on a scale. Now they're going down. Whether it was 2 bars, 4 bars, or in Johnny's case, what I was analyzing was he was switching gears every 2 beats. So he'd do like a trill for 2 beats and then a double stop for 2. And then, so that's the tech. That's how I got all this information. Then I realized you learn all these things to not think about it, but to have the feeling of phrasing and to come up with these ideas that make a scale not sound like a scale, that make a mode sound more musical, a melodic idea. You can't just run up and down or play trills all day. So if you work on trills, you're not going to play a whole solo for over and over and over, trill for, you see what I'm saying? Yes. So these ideas and rhythmic figures and all this kind of stuff, I don't want to get, well, I can't get technical. That's what I discovered. That's what's going on. So if you want to get into it, I'm ready.
So no, you brought up 2 interesting points there. One of them was,
and it happens with chords too, and strumming.
But in other words, people changing patterns.
Yes, you may be just hitting a stupid G chord, but if you're strumming it for one way for 2 bars, and then you arpeggiate it for 2 bars after that, it's sucking in the listener. So I think the true definition of yin and yang, or call and answer, or tension and release, is being it's being taken the wrong way. It's a call and answer means you say something and you say something, but they have to be 2 distinct different things. If you want to call it call and answer, well, I don't call it that. I just call it something different. Something, and if you can narrow it down to music for dummies, it's a lot easier to say, okay, play something for 4 bars, then play something, maybe using the same scale, different. If you play up one way, play down the other way. Everybody says, oh, take a scale and make it sound different and not like everybody else. And they're not describing it correctly. What I've seen from all these master artists is, and they switch like right on the money within the phrases. So in Pro Tools, you're able to see 4-bar things and 2-bar things and 2-beat things and turnarounds right perfectly. You could take 2 bars and put it right under another chord if the scale's the same, and it'll work.
Wow.
So Pro Tools, the way you look at it, can educate any musician. That's why drummers actually make really great keyboard players like Chick Corea or that kind of thing, because they really know how to translate a rhythmic figure to a melodic idea. And I've seen a lot of educational videos where they say the order of preference is rhythm, melody, and then contour. Rhythm first.
Interesting. I read an article, Warren Haynes once said the best thing a guitar player can do is learn how to play drums, and I'm assuming that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, because you're taking a rhythmic figure that has no melodic value and then attaching it to notes, And, again, you're learning triplets and quarter notes and whole notes. So what if you play something for a whole note for 2 bars, and then the next thing you play triplets, or you choose 2 notes out of the scale, or 3 notes. Just make it different.
Do you think, the first thing I want to point out is that for everybody listening, so this is a guy who's put in more than his 10,000 hours many times over, but I don't think people realize how much it takes to be perform at the level that you're performing at. And this is not just in music, this is in anything you do. You're sitting there studying freaking Pro Tools.
Yes. And you just think what it takes for somebody to sit there with a piece of wood and spend their whole lives in it.
Well, I mean, that's why you do what you can do what you do. And I know you're not saying this in a bragging way, and I'm not trying to make it like that, but you're performing at a certain level, and there's a reason why, because the work underneath it is just immense, and I think people don't necessarily realize that.
There's a lot of hours, and it's a lot of frustration and a lot of ups and downs, and it's not writer's block, but it's I really don't believe in that prodigy crap. Maybe a prodigy is somebody that just can concentrate a little more. Maybe it had a couple more coffees than another guy, or they just can figure it out quicker. But
right.
But it doesn't mean that it's frustrating, when you see somebody 3 years old playing a Bach piece on a piano, and you're going G chord or learning like something out of a Mel Bay book or whatever. But it's the hours and how you concentrate. It's good teachers. It's given the right stuff. I mean, there's people that have spent decades learning stuff, and then they come across a guy who figured it out in 2 weeks.
Right.
So I've always been get to the answer, get to the explanation. If you have a concrete and it's the real definition of something, it really helps. I like studying everything about music, the origins of how the scales started. So then you feel you didn't leave anything out. That always helps too. But theoretically, I did study. I studied the teachings of Link Chamberlain. I studied with Steve Kahn. I studied with Mike Stern, Steve Vai. I sought out the best teachers in the world because I figured if I was 80 or 50% as good as them,
right,
it'd be better than being 50% as good as the local guy.
No, man, aim high, because if you fall short, you're going to be a lot higher than if you just
exactly.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you on that. Do you think, so you mentioned Johnny often changed every 2 beats. Do you think that was deliberate, or that was his own personal meter for his playing?
I think it was ingrained because of the material he listened to. He listened to a lot of Chuck Berry, which was a 2-beat feel. Bingo.
And so that just became his
1 2 1 2 1.
His personal pulse.
Yes.
His musical pulse. Interesting.
A lot of slow blues. Fast blues is just slow blues fast.
Right.
So if you get used to playing that, learning how to fill in those gaps without going too crazy, you just speed it up a little. Of course, there's different changes in this and that, but concentrating on coming up with different ideas makes you less of a prisoner to the changes. I mean, you have to know, like an artist, what colors make a tree, and what kind of brush I use, and this and that. So all these little double stops and trills and all these ideas and scales, that possibilities are just to create that palette. But you really got to know that those are what those are for. It doesn't mean play double stops on the whole damn tune. It doesn't mean, and that's what happens. You start working on those, you forget about the other stuff. Now you're the double stop guy. Well, that gets boring in 4 bars.
Yeah.
What they like is all of a sudden, I like his doubles. What's he doing now? I like, whoa. That's what brings in the listener.
Well, it's interesting.
And it changes evenly.
Well, it's interesting you saying this, and now I'm thinking back to that is what I liked, but I wasn't aware. I didn't have the awareness to articulate it, but you just put it. That's what I really dug about what you did. It was constantly engaging me, and it was that's why it was very different to me. It wasn't a lot. Remember, I think I said it wasn't the same old regurgitated stuff except faster. This was totally very engaging and very deliberate.
I appreciate it. And the masters at it, the Hendrixes, the Miles Davises, the Steve Ray Vaughans, the Johnnies, the jam band guys that can do that for 16 minutes. Mm. There's some repetition of stuff, but it never gets boring. How do they do? Yeah. So the listener's hearing the notes and the music, and the musician may not be able to explain it, but if someone that wants to learn how to play like somebody would listen to the framework in which they're doing the stuff rather than the actual stuff, then when you hear an artist say, your favorite artist say, I never really learned this riff perfectly. What do you mean? You're telling me not to practice perfectly? Well, I wanted my own thing out of it. So I sort of learned a Freddie King riff. I sort of learned a Hendrix riff. Yeah, but you're great. I'm learning this stuff to the T. But you see what that does? If you learn something exactly, 9 times out of 10, the only time it's going to sound perfect is if you put it in the same damn spot.
Right. If you're playing with the record, for example, which is why I know. Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah.
So then you're a great cover band, but then you got to play that same solo. And God forbid you play an additional 12 bars or however many bars your solo is. Now what?
Yeah.
Same thing, wrong? And it's that constant feeling, I'm wrong. I didn't play that Hendrix riff right. I didn't do this. And then you hit these other guys, and they go in one take. They lay down a track, and boom, they're out, and they get their check. And how are these guys doing that? Because that technique. And that's what I saw from getting solos from Clapton for Johnny's record, for Johnny's stuff. It was like a holiday present every time I got one of their solos that came in the studio, because I'm like, wow, I can analyze it. I mean, I had done it before, but this was proof positive that these guys are either feeling phrases and can't explain it, or they know what they're doing it and don't want to explain it anymore because they just want to play.
Sure.
But it really opened up when I heard Johnny day in and day out doing this. You know, Johnny was like a sax player. If you took everything else away, you'd hear those chord changes go by. And lo and behold, his brother was a sax player. So he was outlining chords because he studied Chet Atkins. He studied, country guys who do outline the chords. So anyway, I don't know how technical you want to get, but if you want to know what I think is the secret to playing like that, and like you said, what did you get out of each guy? This is what I got out of all of them. So when I listen to him, I'm like, oh, wow, in the blues, he did 2-bar phrase, then he did a 4-bar phrase. He's just dividing a 12-bar or whatever, a 16-bar or even a jazz tune into phrasing. And that's what it is. And then they can play with the anticipation of the phrase or how they get out of it, but it's within phrasing. It's call and answer, whatever you want to call it, that kind of thing. So anyway, too technical, but that's
no, this is great. There's tons of guitar players listening to this. This is great.
But if you want to work on your career or your music, you got to have all the tools. I mean, even people like Keith Richards said, or Zappa said, you got to know all the scales. You got to know what goes with what. Otherwise, you're limited. Then you get writer's block. Then you get you really got to, when you get the call, you know how they say, oh, when you get the call, that's well, it's not just the call. Now it's like, I got the call. I got to produce.
Yeah.
Now I have to play it even, I'm in front of more people and more this, I'm recording. Record it's forever. So you better have all your skills down ahead of time. So that's probably the last question. What do you tell them?
That was awesome, man.
Anyway.
So let's go through a few of these guys. Tell me how you got the gig and maybe a memory or a story if you can think of one. Leslie West.
Leslie West. I used his engineer to mix Step Back, so he got a Grammy as well. Leslie West, I heard that Leslie West had gotten off the drugs. He had tapered off drugs, and I knew that I wanted to speak with him, so I had a gig book that made no routing sense whatsoever. And just to meet him, and we did a show in Canada. I told him what I was doing with Johnny. I was, tapering Johnny off the drugs, and I heard that he had done it, and he had no problems, and doctor didn't tell him, that kind of thing. So he was instrumental. His story was the final thing, letting me know that I could go all the way with Johnny and get him off the things. So then later on, when it came to, we did what was called the Rock Fest. It was Johnny and I and Leslie West and Edgar and I think Pat Travers and that kind of thing. So he came in and sat in with Johnny and I on Red House. So then a friendship started developing. And when it came time to do the Step Back record, he was doing his album, Still Climbing.
Yeah.
That one. So I got them both to offer to play on each other's albums. So it was Johnny and I and Leslie on a song on Step Back, and then Johnny in the same studio recorded Slide on that one, on one of his songs. So it was like a swap. There was no money was exchanged. It was the even Steven thing. And we're still good friends to date. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great. I love his playing.
Great player, man.
Yeah, blues, the foundation of rock. Some say metal, but just that tone. That he influenced guys like George Lynch and maybe even Michael Schenker, who's a huge. I love Michael Schenker, Wooly Roth, that kind of thing. I'm into all kinds of players, especially fusion guys, Holsworth, that kind of thing. I never told Johnny that. With Johnny, it was just blues. He was like, I know you're in a lot of other stuff, and I can't play some of that stuff, but I'm just glad you're playing blues with me. I go, you're doing fine.
Yeah. Dickey Betts.
Dickey Betts. We did a show in Pistola, Italy. And where are we? Yeah, Pistola, Italy. He came on and we played Used to Love Her, but it's all over now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was this?
It's on YouTube. It's got to be 4 years ago or something like that. We traveled all over the world, but that was a biggie. I really enjoyed that one. A couple friends of mine were in his band. We also did the Rock Legends cruise with him. It was us and ZZ Top and Thorogood. We were bumping into all those guys. Johnny and I were doing 140 to 180 shows a year for years, and it was getting him healthier. So it was constant touring, and I got to meet and play with or record with all these groups of people. So it was pretty cool. And even now, I just play with Warren Haynes and G-Love at a huge concert with Government Mule in Long Island. Danny Lewis, the keyboard player from
great player.
He's on my album. Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, great player, man. I'm so he did a lot to that band. He brought a lot to that band when he came on board.
Yeah, of course.
Talented musician.
I do a lot of that. I do a lot of that guesting. That's what's good about the blues world is it's a family. So if somebody's switching from a band or whatever, these concerts that you see like Crossroads or these big Wani Fests or whatever, they're great for fans to see music, but what's happening backstage are the musicians are talking and say, hey, I'd love to, you got to play on my record. These are the backstage.
So it's like a networking. It's like networking. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And they're the beginnings of huge projects. Like when the Allman Brothers did their sabbatical at the Beacon in New York. I was doing the Roots album for Johnny. I was producing that and playing on it. And I'm like, oh my God, they're all going to the Beacon in New York. They're all coming to us.
So it was like you grabbed a few.
The invitation was sent out before you go do your show. We'll take care of your limo. You come up and play on Johnny's, and boom, we got Vivino, we got Warren Haynes, we got. It was like perfect.
That's so cool.
Again, that's what producers do too. They don't just sit there pushing knobs. There's also a lot of they're working out.
That's
logistics
awesome.
And timing. So.
I was lucky. I saw them in 2011 at the Beacon. It was a one of the best shows I ever saw. The Allman Brothers.
I think that's the one that Johnny was on.
Yeah. I think he was not that night I was there, but it was great. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, tore down with Derek Trucks. Yep, cool. Derek's
oh my God, Derek's can't even put it in words what that guy could do. It's like he's like insane what he could do on that slide.
Yeah. It's also the way he sets up his guitar.
What do you mean?
He presses on the frets with the slide as opposed to people that slide over it. He actually his action is set up so he's actually pressing the slide as you would a finger on there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Instead of just
glissando slide notes, he's digging in. Yeah.
And so that gives him that tough, edgy.
Vibrato. Yeah. He's like playing a fretless guitar. But it's digging in more. It's a deeper, richer tone. Plus that SG sounds great.
Yeah.
If you look closely, I'm not sure if it's the one he's using now, but for a while there, it had Johnny's signature on it. He came on the tour bus.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I don't know if he lacquered or whatever, but it was right there. I know he started getting more signatures on, but Johnny's is on there. I think from Crossroads 2010, he came on the bus and he was like all smiling.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton. How'd you get the gig with Eric? What'd you do with him, and any cool stories?
I played with Johnny on a song called "Don't Want No Woman," Bobby Blue Bland, which was a huge influence on Johnny. He loved his singing, and Bobby Blue Bland material he listened to or he told me. That's the one thing about Johnny. He kind of took me under his wing, meaning he would say, listen to this artist. And I'm like, oh, I'll get all the recordings. Go, no. Get this album, listen to this track, And that's where I learned how to do guitar answers for my vocal lines, that kind of thing. So that was really cool. So this was one of the songs. And I had read and I knew that Clapton loved Bobby Blue Bland too, and especially this song. So I'm like, I got to get him on this recording. And so again, getting these artists together was a pain in the neck because a lot of them are on tour. So, and you have a timeline for a project. So, if somebody says, well, I'd love to do it, but I'll be back in 8 months. Ugh,
yeah, that doesn't help you.
So here it was like, I'd love to do it, but I'll be back in 3 months. So I took that as, well, you promised.
Right.
So after 3 months, he was recontacted, and it was like, you promised. And that's how, so I delayed the project for 3 months, held up all the mixes, everything. Yeah.
Just to get class. There
was another one with Ben Harper too. Ben Harper had promised to record on the album, on the Step Back album. I did a bunch of those albums with a lot of guests, but Ben Harper had promised to do it, and we never heard from him. So I'm already finishing up the mixes, and we're like ready to wrap. It's done. And I get a phone call. Hey, it's Ben. I really love the tracks. You want vocals on this too? And I'm thinking, I didn't even think you were doing this. And I didn't want to tell him that it was done. He's not on. And I go, yeah, throw some vocals on it too. So I edited it into a duet. Same thing I did with Susan Tedeschi and Johnny on Bright Lights, Big City. A lot of them I told just to sing over the whole track, and they had no idea it would end up being a duet. So what I did was I dropped out a verse, threw Johnny in there. I had Johnny sing, the artist sing, Johnny sing, the artist sing, then a solo. Then I had them answer each other. I edited them so that it would sound like they were in the same. Yeah. Yep.
So you're big on the call and response thing in not just for guitar, in general.
Also, yeah, especially for the duets, because you're showcasing the artist and you want them to sing this, and then the words have to match what the thing is. If it's a duet for a guy, for a girl, or just singing about whatever the experience is. Yeah, in this case, it worked good with Susan. It worked good with Ben. But it was so funny because I didn't have the heart to tell him. You
missed the boat.
Yes, I'm like, okay, yeah. So there you go.
You're a hustler, man. I like that.
You have producer wise, you have to. Yeah. Well, that's how those projects work. Because first you start with a project, you have no one, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have Billy Gibbons. So then you contact the other. Okay, we have Billy Gibbons and Edgar and Johnny. The thing with Johnny, nobody says no. Nobody said no to Johnny.
Yeah,
everybody wanted to play with him.
I'm sure.
And on those albums, these were first. This was the first time Clapton recorded with Johnny. This is the first time this one, all of them, every track on both, and we were slated for 2 more. I had to turn down Eric Johnson.
Wow.
To put him on the next one. I was like, there's no room. So, yeah, try making that call.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah.
How about Mark Knopfler?
Mark Knopfler's on a. I'll tell you one story about it. He's actually on a track that hasn't been released yet. That we're thinking about releasing as a bonus track one of these days. He was on Brown Eyed Handsome Man, a Chuck Berry tune.
Sure, I know that song.
Yeah, right. And he played that, I Want My MTV kind of rhythm, or that kind of, Dire Straits kind of, that tone, that cool, staccato kind of groove, and it's on that. So that's just one story with him, but that was very cool. So we're all on that track.
Must be a treat watching a guy like him play, such an unconventional player, and it's so beautiful.
He didn't come to the studio. Warren was in the studio. I've seen, a lot of Derek and Susan, they were on tour. Joe Perry was on tour, but a lot of them did come to the studio. So you never know. John Medeski was with us. The Horns are with us. Warren was with us. Vivino was with us. So you never know. And then a lot of times I'm playing with these guys live as well. Jumping on having Dickey Betts jump on, and all of a sudden you're playing. It's great experience. So.
And one last one, Kim Simmonds. He's he's an underrated. He doesn't come up in conversation. What a monster player! Great tone.
Yes, and Johnny really liked his tone as well because he knew that he plays a flying V with a Marshall, which is cool. But it's that really clean tone that gives you that, when you bang on a guitar, when you're plugged in that way, you hear a hollow kind of Stradivarius kind of sound. That's the tone that's going to really allow you to play the hell out of that instrument. That real hollow. Johnny's settings were like treble on 10, middle on 0, and bass on 0. And
wow, treble on 10, bass and middle on 0.
Yeah, and no reverb. Just everything on 11. Yeah, that was and the speakers were like the vintage 30s and that kind of thing. I do that a lot. But for blues, it had to be bright and almost hurting bright. But Simmonds has that kind of tone. So we met on I think it was called the Rock and Blues Fest, and that was another one where it was Johnny was headlining, Edgar and he, and so I arranged for Kim to come up to meet Johnny, and he was like a little kid. He loved it, and they talked shop, and we all hung out. And so a friendship developed, and I recently played B.B. King's with him, with his band.
Up in the city?
Yeah, a bunch of great songs.
Wow, that's freaking cool.
His tunes. He's a great player and a great guy. I
didn't know he played a flying V. That's interesting.
Yeah. But now he's playing a Strat. But he's played. Yeah, when he was on tour with us, there's photos and YouTube video of all of us jam. It was at any given moment. It was myself on stage. When they do the finale.
Yeah.
It was Johnny and I, Derringer, Kim Simmonds, Edgar. Who else? Yeah, just riffing. Yeah, that was the endings of the shows. Kim Simmonds is great, though. I really enjoy his playing.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
He told us all the stories about Foghat, and how they wanted to go more pop, and he wanted to stay blues, and he held true to his thing. And Johnny really enjoyed that because he's a blues purist too. So,
does he live over in England, Kim Simmonds, or is he here in the States?
He's here in the States.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yep, right around the northeast. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. So
let's talk about your new album, man. Badass Generation.
Sure.
So I listened to it a bunch of times, and I'm a blues guy, so it's right up my alley genre wise. But it's just a really fantastic album. So I want to just go over a few of the songs. And first of all, the things I liked about it, the songs they're really well written. I mean, they're not the same old, structures in the blues and the same old blues licks. And I was really, for most people, there's only so much you can do with the blues. It's just, there's, it's a little different version, but it's the same stuff essentially. And your album really was not like that. And I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. I don't no, I mean, I don't know you. I have no vested interest in, it was just a really amazing record.
You've been paid no way.
I've been paid no way. Yeah, that's for sure. I can tell you that was
a $10. But it's like, in reading interviews early with Clapton, that kind of thing, he would say things like, no matter, and everybody says, Clapton in his blue period, in his rock period, in his pop period, no matter what kind of interview he did, he said, my solos were always blues based.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So no matter what I do, there's blues in it because that's what really gives it the soul and makes it not sound like elevator stuff. But as far as the song structure, I'm really conscious of the timing of songs and where the verses go and the choruses and how stuff has to be different and the background, the vocals and the ear candy and building the song to the crescendo at the end, and how the songs on an album are numbered and one leads to the other, and that there's no keys back to back. Something isn't in the key of E, and then the next song is in the key of E, or the grooves are different.
That's interesting. Okay, so talk about that for 1 second, because this was ordered real perfectly, and I know that that is not an easy thing to do. I think that's one of those things people don't think about, but I write ad copy, and I write.
It's important.
Yeah, and I write sales letters, and I know the flow of your conversation because I've done hundreds of them is important, and so I know that this is. It's not the same thing, but it's sort of similar. It's a conversation you're having with somebody from the first note to the last note.
The whole album.
Yeah.
That's why it kind of sucks when people purchase, not just on mine, but when people.
I know, and they buy a track. It's like, it's like you're spending the night with a woman and you give her a kiss. And then I just don't understand that. I mean, I'm like
a blow up doll with no holes.
It's just I don't get it. It's like,
what?
But that's why I don't stream music. I listen to music, and I want to find out, like, okay, what does this guy have to say? And he's not going to tell me in a song. It's just not fucking possible. Yeah,
and that's what I got from studying that 70s kind of vibe, was that those albums, even though it wasn't an album like The Wall, where there was a common thread in the story, in the first song he loses this one and then he gets it back and then he goes to war and whatever that theme is. This was just why did those albums flow, and why did you want to keep on listening to those, and why did they become classic albums?
Yes.
And people don't look for this. And I'm glad you noticed this, because only a few interviewers have noticed. They go, there's something about the order of the songs. And I'm like, wow, you really saw what I was trying to – yeah. The thing is, you want something that you can put on at a bash or a party or an event and just keep it on.
Leave it on. Yeah, I want to like
a Sly record or a good Aerosmith album or a good – it's just like, just put that in.
It's a conversation. I want the whole conversation.
Yeah, and then you don't know whether – am I at the beginning of that album or are we already listening to it again?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's, let it run again.
Right.
That's what I wanted to create. I wanted to create, okay, we're going on a road trip. Throw this in. Okay, and then we'll get from here to Colorado, and then we'll put in a war record or something, or Zeppelin, physical graffiti. Something that you don't go, okay, you don't start skipping tracks. That's like a slap in the face to any other, the last ones are always throwaways and that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's important too. But I really, how the process is the key changes. What if you have harp in one, don't follow it with another harp one. If you have a fast one, it's that simple. But
it's not simple. The formula might be simple, but the execution is not simple.
Right, and that's the thing. You have to remember to do it.
Right.
So next album, do it again. Make sure that you this and that, and that's in your head. So you either write, and I'm a big fan of writing stuff down. You got to write it down.
You have to, man.
Never trust anybody who doesn't write stuff down.
No, you can't. It's too much stress if you don't write it down. Then you got to figure it out. And if it's right there in front of you, life is so much easier. And what do you know what? I know what I used to write a lot of stuff down? There's a program called Workflowy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's basically like, it's in the cloud. It's $50 a year, and you could put, like, it's linear straight down, and you can put a new line and a new topic. I don't know. I know this is off topic, but it's so fucking helpful in everything I do.
I do that either.
Loads of projects.
Paper, or I'll send myself an email.
Absolutely. I do the same thing.
It's like, I got to remember to do this, that.
Absolutely.
And it's not that you're losing your mind. It's this stuff. If you let it slide, it's like, even if you double a track, if you don't have some kind of recording board in the studio, you're going to forget to double the guitar on this line, and it's going to haunt you forever, because the recordings, once they're recorded and they're out,
you can't, no do-overs.
Oh, it's forever, and that's the hardest part when you're doing your own material. It's like, oh boy, this is forever. Well, so you try not to get too anal, otherwise your material sits there for 3 years, and
done is better than perfect. And you realize, and as you get older, I mean, at least for me in my business projects, I've been able to live with done is better than perfect as I've gotten older.
Right. And if you write all this stuff down, you can get as close to your sense of perfect as you want. Because, okay, I did this. I did the song order. Did we do this? All right, okay, I did this. It was mixed. Did we do this? Did we switch it to analog? Is it going to go on vinyl? Something weird with this track. And what I find is, all right, the first time you listen through something or parts or whatever, the big question is, when is enough enough? And I find that if I listen to something, something will bother me or stick out. Okay, we got to fix this. We got to do this. I got to do this, a horn part or whatever. And then it's like, wow, if I had never gone back that one extra time to fix that, it would have been forever. And who am I, or how do I know, or how does anybody know to go one more step? Wow, all of a sudden I hear Cantina. Now, if I hadn't have thought of that now, it wouldn't have never been on there, and it would have never made that track. So it's something so wild, that inner feeling that you get, that's like, wow, there's something missing. It's this. And had you not listened to it that one extra time and just settled, I'm sure there's a lot of parts on very famous records where it's like, putting any kind of weird instrumentation or changing, saying, you know what, this verse just doesn't belong here, or this word is wrong, or this riff, I got it, and you're sitting there in the studio, it's like, I got to change this. And everybody around is like, no, it's great, keep it. Either A, they're sick of hearing that same riff 50 times, but it's your thing, so it's like, no, I got to fix this. It's a little, and you can get real anal about it, but when do you stop? And when was it good? When is it good when you didn't stop? That's the key. Yeah. It's like, wow, if I hadn't have revisited this, it would have been that way. But now you hear like old recordings of, have you heard that stuff with Hendrix, like 50 different versions of Crossroad Traffic?
Yeah, I've heard stuff like that, sure.
When did he go, okay, I got to get a comb with wax paper?
Yeah, right.
Can you imagine that conversation?
Yeah.
What are you, nuts?
Right.
What if he never put that on there? You'd never have, and and I bet the song the way it was, or the all those takes of All Along of Little Wing.
Yeah.
And you listen to them and you go, oh my God, they weren't as good.
Right.
But had there been nothing to compare, they could have been.
Yeah, as a right, because you have a frame of reference now. Compared to. Yeah. I totally get it.
I mean, Johnny and the Muddy Days and those guys, it was one take. That's what he told me. If you didn't, and I swear to God, every time I recorded Johnny, if I asked for a second take, the second take didn't have that something on the first take. That's a whole nother thing too. When it takes enough.
So he gave you his best stuff on his first drop.
Yeah, Muddy Heart Again. That was all one take. First time.
Wow.
They're all in one room. There's no channels.
Yeah, there's no overdubs, no punching shit in.
No.
Yeah.
You edit the whole band. You don't single out the.
You edit the whole band.
Yeah, that's it. You edit that tape.
Yeah,
everybody. Yeah, there's no individual track. So anyway.
But you said you won't put two songs back to back that are in the same key either. That's what I wanted to.
And that's deadly live too, because there's just something, to me, it gives the listener a sense, I just heard that.
Wow, that is really interesting, man. So that means
they're just playing another verse of the song they played a second ago, and there just happened to be a stop, and it started over again.
And because people aren't, and even though most people that are in the audience can't sit and say, "Oh, that's in the same key," subconsciously they're hearing something that to them, yes sounds.
It's not fresh. No,
that is really, really interesting to me.
It's different crap in the same key.
So you have to go and have X number of set lists.
Yes.
Or you have to do the set list the same way that you're doing the song order.
Yes.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yep.
That is really interesting. Fuck. Wow.
Yeah, if you do a slide song in G, and all of a sudden the next song is a harp song in G, or you do an encore and two songs are in E, it's like, you do a Whole Lot of Love and then you follow it with Highway 61. It's like, well, they're both in E. It's like the only thing making it different is the rhythmic figures and the note choice and the chord changes, but the existing key is the same. So you're already got something against you, a little red flag.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned
I like the feeling of new key, that like refreshing, brand new, here's something right in your face, different, higher or lower, something that a new key gives you. Whether I'm not talking about major or minor, I'm talking about the key. Or one of the 12.
Right.
In India, one of the 24, you know.
You mentioned Highway 61. I was talking to a player yesterday who knew Johnny, and he said that, to me, there is no better piece of music than Johnny Winter Live Highway 61. I could listen to that 1,000 times in a row, and it wouldn't bore me.
In Dylan's book, it said, I will no longer perform Highway 61 live because I consider it Johnny's song.
Yeah, I mean,
even though he wrote it. He goes, he won't play it because of Johnny.
It's just, I mean, a piece of art. But somebody I was talking to yesterday told me that, and I don't know if this is true, but you can tell me, that Johnny didn't like that album, that whole album, that Johnny Winter and with the 3 sides.
Hated it.
Why?
Exactly. He says, I know it was my most successful, but I just hated the way the guitar players stepped on each other. That's one live show out of millions that he did. He just, and I said, Johnny, everybody loves that. I go, that was the birth of 2 guitar players playing at once. I mean, it launched Skynyrd. It launched, whomever. It's like, but there wasn't a mesh. It wasn't purposeful unison harmony, guitar harmonies. It wasn't purposeful. It was just, him singing and all of a sudden some guy playing over him. And then it just happened to be Derringer, who was, great.
Yeah.
But it was just, and he really got tired of that MXR phase sound. That's why when he joined Muddy, he got a chorus pedal instead of the phase because he felt it was too rocked out. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The phase 90, with the spaghetti. Right?
Interesting. Wow. What a tremendous piece of music that is. I mean, it's just.
But he came to grips with it later on. He said, I know that the rock period in my life paid the bills to allow me to have the freedom to play blues. And the beauty of it was, too, whenever he did interviews in the height of his massive stardom, he always cited the blues as being an influence. So what he did was he turned people onto blues more, and he came to grips with that. He goes, I understand it, but it's at least his favorite album was his first one. Everybody's first.
It was John Dawson Winter III. Was that
Progressive Blues?
Progressive Blues. Okay, that was the second John Dawson Winter III, I think. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about Badass Generation.
Okay,
your new record.
Name kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was curious about that, but okay. So we talked earlier. I'm just going to repeat this again for the listeners. Paul's got a vocalist on there named Morton Friedheim. Is that or Fredheim?
Fredheim.
Morton Fredheim, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, just every song, just absolutely smack between the eyes, really nails it. I mean, it was just great.
I love his talent. His Paul Roger-esque, but other things too.
Yeah.
His pitch is just dead on.
Scary dead on. I mean, it was scary dead on. I mean, just phenomenal. I want to talk about some of the songs on the CD, and just to give people a frame of reference, there's 12.
It'll be like one of those ink blotter things. Okay.
What do you think of? What do you picture when I say? There's 12 songs on the CD, and on my iTunes, I gave 9 of them 5-star ratings, and the other 3 got 4 stars. So that's pretty damn good. So this will be in my and I got a bunch of favorites on there. So let's talk about the first song. This song "Down Home Boogie." You got great slide playing on there, and it also sound like either a Hammond B3 or some sort of keys on there.
Nothing.
There's nope.
That's how I work. That's how I work my guitar chords.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's that hidden ear candy in there and those little parts that I layer on later that add the little sprinkles and the cherry on top. But yeah, not too many people know that I played slide the I played with the greatest slide player in the world, and I really didn't want to push down.
No, that slide playing on that song sounded great, man.
Thanks, but I actually did a dueling solo with myself. I did slide followed by straight and slide. But yeah, that song again. I wanted to start off with a kick in the nuts, something solid, nice unison. Yeah, so nice unison lines and nice slow kind of groove just to get every. It was kind of like an okay. Here's everybody that's going to be on this record and these songs. Here's what the drummer sounds like. Here's what the bass sounds like. Here's the kind of vibe of the tunes. Here's the production sound. That they don't know yet, but is going to carry through. You're going to get these kind of drum sounds. You're going to get these kind of guitar rhythm sounds, and that this is what it is. So and I'm really into that. For this, I was really into that tight production on the guitars. I'm a big fan of early Boston and Queen, that kind of stuff. So those were the production values without getting dated, but to make it current. Hence the title "Badass Generation." I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, so that's the introductory song that I chose to really do it.
It opens it up great. What when you play slide, you play in open tuning or standard tuning?
That was open, but I also play slide without a slide.
A paint without a paintbrush. What does that mean?
I use my first finger.
Wait a minute. So there's not a slide. It's your finger. Like
yeah.
So
yeah.
What the hell? How does that even happen?
I imitate the slide because usually I never have a slide lying around. So somebody grabs a shot glass or whatever. So
yeah.
I thumb pick it and I slide on this and in many occasions. I will use a slide. This picture's me with a slide, but I'll just play. I'll slide my finger to make the sound of a slide. I'm imitating the movement of a slide. So what kind of slide do I use? Skin.
Holy crap. So you weren't using a slide on that song. It's your finger.
No. And the way I slide it, it's almost like a fretless guitar. I'm trying to imitate as if I did have a slide in my hand because I'm always torn between glass and brass and chrome and yeah.
I understand.
If I do use the action has to be right, and it's always a pain in the neck because 9 times out of 10 you grab a guitar, hey, play some slide. Oh, well, the action isn't right. I got to grab the other guitar. I got to get the slide, and some people throwing slides out. Here, Paul, use this one or some kind of custom slide. Use my slide. And I'm like, you know what? I'll use my finger.
Wow, that's amazing. What guitar?
It's kind of a Jeff Beck thing.
Yeah. What guitar are you?
It's kind of weird because people look at me. They're like, "Where's your slide?" But I hear slide playing.
Yeah. That's a first. I've never heard that. That's awesome. What guitar are you playing on that song?
I think I used I had a ton of guitars. I think that one I got a great guitar from a GJ2, Grover Jackson 2, the guys that moved and started their own company. I use that humbucker sound, but I have a double stacked DiMarzio 30th anniversary in my Strat because although I like Strat, I like thicker sounds, but I always double my rhythms for recordings on these types of things. For blues, maybe no. It depends. I'm a big fan of the Bob Ezrin kind of producing.
Which means?
Wall of guitars.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll take a part that I'll record on a Les Paul, and I'll double it, not with the same guitar. I'll grab an SG and double the part. Never double with the same guitar.
Your studio bills must be
they're all sitting there.
Exorbitant.
I have a lot of friends in the industry.
That, Holy
here, do
crap.
your album here. Do it here. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Another song called Swamp Thing. It's one of my favorite tracks on there. And in my opinion, you could really hear Johnny's influence. Not only in the structure of the song writing, but in that opening lick. And I can't think of it, but it's very. I don't want to say it's. There's a lick Johnny did many years ago. I can't think of the song, which reminded me of it. It's like very chimey, and it's a beautiful lick that you did. It like repeats itself throughout the song. It really gave it a good. You were able to hang on to that lick through the whole song. That was the one. And then it was like an adventure around that lick with all the other stuff going on. It was really cool.
Thanks. I could tell you all the influences just within that one song, but that was the funny part was trying to get a Norwegian singer who speaks actually perfect English, the King's English, to sing with a Southern drawl.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's enunciating every word, and I'm like, no, it's not woods. It's not wood. It's woods. Wood. And back in. It's not in. It's in. And it's like, what? In? I go, no, we got that. So that was the hardest. And I was ruining his proper English.
Yeah,
I go, look, I'm really sorry, but this has got to be, you know, my folks were from Alabama. On one side of my family, I'm like, it's got to get swampy. We got to think, you know, Duck Dynasty kind of stuff here. This is, yeah. So, yeah.
Great.
Oh, I was so a big fan of that band Badlands.
How did you get that jangly guitar sound? Was it like a specific amp, specific setting, specific guitar?
That's a Les Paul doubled with an acoustic guitar.
What was it like? All same thing with all treble, no bass, no mid?
I like everything on, for some reason, 5 or 7.
Man, what?
Yeah. But I used compression, but not in the way to squash it and destroy, to enhance. So that's what I seemed to get a lot out of production of the 70s, was their use of compression. And I was fortunate enough to play with and hang with Barry Goudreau from Boston. And I said, look, I know a million people have come up to you and told you they love the Boston stuff. I go, yeah, okay, yeah, I do. But I got a better question. How the hell did you get those guitar and drum sounds, especially the drum sounds? And it was shag carpeting.
What do you? Oh, they played on shag carpeting? What do you mean?
He goes, well, back in the day, all the drum booths had shag carpeting on the floor, on the walls, and on the ceiling. That was the look. But it acted as compression.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So and they only used 2 overhead mics and a kick drum and a snare. They didn't mic the toms. You know,
wow.
They didn't. Now apparently obviously you have control over each individual. I mean, you could adjust the volume of the drum seat. It's like, and I don't want that kind of control, because then I can.
You'll never finish. You'll be working on it for years.
Yeah, but it becomes so perfect that it's too perfect. It doesn't sound natural anymore. There's no way that a drummer would be able to hit that with that kind of evenness and consistency. You know? Yeah. So the 70s recordings, they beat the crap out of those mounted toms. They weren't mic'd. The cymbal, each cymbal wasn't mic'd. And you have one guy, okay, bring that one's a little lower than this, or raise the hi-hat. No. The hi-hat was right next to the snare. You had one mic. What you get is what you get. And it created, you know, and they have some ambient mics, you know, hanging around, ambient meaning far away and picking up sounds of a bigger room, you know, like Bonham and that kind of thing, you know, all the way from the ceiling and 5 feet away from the kick. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I retroized. You know, I wasn't running around in bell bottoms, but for this recording, but I liked what they did. I love the acoustic guitar sounds of Boston, which I put in "Goodbye Forever." I love the vocalist was running at almost 80-90% compression. His feeling is when you're recording your vocal parts and you use compression, it makes you feel like you're more inside the track when you're recording. You're more a part of the music. And not that you're going to keep it on there, but just put the compress. And it's very hard for a lot of singers to do because it affects them. But that's the key of those classic friggin' recordings, free and all that. Compress but not fearful of it. But anyway, so that was that. And on Swamp Thing, double guitars on the intro, lush vocal harmonies on the choruses. That's the thing. It was like, it's swampy, but when you get to the choruses, it's like, bam, these angelic vocals start kicking in. And then to work with a singer like that and musicians like that, you know, I'm writing stuff on the spot for this right then and there and throwing out stuff. And then the music's happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, here's the impression of the story, here's the lyrics. So if you don't have people that are going to take what you have and even take it a step further and play it back in a way that, this is what I imagined and even better. It eggs you on to create, and that's the best kind of creating atmosphere, is when you're surrounded by guys that are really good, and it's like, wow, it's not just a D chord, it's not just a C chord, it's something, and wow, can we try this? And you know it's going to be sound good whether you keep that part or not, but this one's going to play this and that. So when you got a bunch of people together, that's when it's inspiring. So that's when he put those angelic vocals on the middle there, and then when we went into that double time feel on the bridge, it was reminiscent to me of listening to Zeppelin or Deep Purple or something like that. And then, to switch gears and go right back into that slow part. It's like when Zeppelin would stop on a dime from one rhythmic figure to another. So those are the things that I grabbed from the 70s, was stopping on a dime to another part. Choruses with lush harmonies versus a certain sound and a rhythm. Repetitive riffs instead of always changing ideas. And the big thing, not giving everybody a friggin' guitar lesson every time they listen to something. Giving them a classic. I wanted to write classic solos that meant something.
Did you work these solos out, Paul? Like beforehand, or were they all improv in the studio?
No, those are all the most of them were one take. Because I heard the songs up and then so many times it flowed. And I tried to use that Johnny thing, and it just worked. I was so familiar with the changes because I wrote them that it just boom.
Yeah, that song was really, I really liked the structure of it was really good. And that opening thing, man, that was just magic. That was really, really cool.
Don't forget the crickets. And the frogs in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the whole thing was great, man. It was really.
We're running around outside in the studio with microphones. That was like
trying to get those sounds.
Yeah.
Where'd you record that?
At my studio, Chop Chop Studios. That's where I did Joe Louis Walker's album. I did James Montgomery's. Yeah, a great room.
Where is that?
Real high ceiling in Connecticut, East Coast.
Out of time. Holy shit! That you did some very, very serious shredding on that song. But let me just say this: I'm not a guy that listens to that kind of music, shredders. That's not my thing, because I find that. Just for me, that's like you meet someone and they talk and talk and talk and they're saying nothing.
Exactly.
I don't like that, because I find most of it's like that.
That's why I always put a little melody in it, and people know that I can do that kind of stuff. So that was one where I just had to let loose. Because
you ripped it, man.
Thanks. The song dictates nuts. Just go crazy.
But it wasn't shredding for shredding's sake. It was like emotionally compelling. It was very solid melodies, but it was just really good to hear you freaking rip the shit out. It was great stuff in there, man. Was that like just one take too, or is that like?
Yeah. And it switches key, goes up a whole step. Yeah.
Holy shit.
But that song's about some hitman on the run. And he's got somebody in the trunk, and the police are pulling him over for a speeding ticket, and they have no idea what he has in the trunk.
Oh,
and he's
wow.
And he's running out of time. Because any second they're going to pull him over.
Is that personal experience that you were writing about?
No, exactly. Former hitman, yeah.
Former hitman reveals.
That was. I was calling up shades of Robin Trower, maybe.
Yeah, beautiful. I saw him, let's say, twice in the last 5 years. He's still killing it, man.
Oh my God! Oh,
still killing. Yeah. It was weird. The last time I saw him, he actually sang.
Yes, I had no idea, and on the DVD, he actually spoke.
It was like I guess he waited. He goes, "Well, I'm 75 now. I might as well. Do it now."
It's like hearing Eddie Van Halen speak for the first time. It's like, okay,
yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, that was very strange. I felt the same way. I'm like, wow.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of these guys are closet singers,
Well, like
maybe they should stay in the closet, but yeah.
Yeah, but like when he had his main singer, I think the guy who actually passed away of cancer or throat cancer or something like that.
Right.
He was a beautiful singer, but after that,
it's bass player from Bridge of Sighs.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that guy killed it. Yeah, he killed it. Yeah.
Oh, see, Morton's like that to me. That's
he killed it. Yeah. But last song I want to talk about, Trouble. That was like a free for all between you and the bass, and that was great, man. were the bass lines worked out, and who wrote those? Was that you or the bass player, or was that all just free for all?
I wrote da 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 based on a pentatonic scale, a little flatter fifth in there. The chorus is a certain way. It's very now that was a song that was very now that had no real reference to shades of 70s, but except for the riff itself. But the freedom and the open sound of the drums, very like a Rival Sons, that kind of tipping their
I like
the bottom. Yeah, but the bass line, I knew once we went back into the chorus, Chris Redden, the fantastic bass player, plays with Samantha Fish. I knew he had to just open it up, and all I did with him was said, "Go crazy." He's like, really? Don't no, right here, free form, just free form, and then we'll all lock in once you're finished, and we'll kick back in to the head again, to the beginning of the song. So just let it all just controlled chaos. Let it fall apart. Let it float, and then we're all just gonna zoom right back in together. And that was the whole premise there, because we had already done choruses that were tight, and everybody follows the changes and does the parts. But right there, the singers vamping, singing free form over the changes. The bass is, there's still a groove there. There's still timing exists and that, and the chords are.
But he was going nuts. It was. Both of you were. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's going to stick out. Yeah, and there's some different melody lines under there and that kind of thing. So that, wow, you really did your homework. Thanks.
Oh no, thank you. It's a great record. I was really happy to check it out.
It's doing really well. We're touring on the thing, and people are singing along with them. That's the really good sign when you're playing live. That's people are like, oh, well, what's so great about playing live? When people sing your shit, and
that's awesome.
Then wow. Or when they're trying to mouth the words, and you can tell they don't know who you are. Their friend bought you a ticket, and they're just sitting there, and all of a sudden the music is so inspiring, they feel the need to try to sing the first time the chorus, and then by the second chorus, well, it's got to be the same. They're singing along. That's the best feeling, that the song's working. Or they're tapping their feet and they can't sing, that kind of thing.
Totally.
So that's fun for musicians, that kind of thing. And, the bigger the crowd that's doing it and that kind of thing. But that's what's happening. We just did a tour in the Midwest. We played Canada. We just did all of Florida. Like I said, I was just in Florida like 3 days ago in the Keys. We came all the way back up. We did Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina.
You got some good weather when you're here. It won't be this. It won't be this nice in March. I hate to tell you that.
Oh man,
it'll be sweaty, but we're having some really nice weather now.
But it was a lot of fun, and Johnny and I played Florida extensively, so I had a lot of fans there from both ends of the spectrum. So it was really cool. But yeah, we did all those songs, and people were digging them. We did "Root to All Evil," "Goodbye Forever," "Keep It All Together." That's got Danny Lewis on it. Yeah, people were dancing and just having a good old time. So it's pretty cool. And it's a framework for soloing. I get to play, that kind of thing. So it's yeah. So there you go.
I'm really glad. I'm glad it's doing well, because you have such a good work ethic, and you've done all this stuff. It's not like random. You didn't roll out of bed and fog a mirror and shit just happened, And,
yeah. No, when Johnny passed, and the label and myself, I have to continue on. I will always be one of Johnny Winter's guitar players, and it's a huge honor. There were only like 2 or 3, and those were some pretty big name guys, and he was a huge influence and like a father figure. He took me under, and that's the cool thing about the blues world is, these artists, especially in the blues, they're your mentors. They pass whatever it is to you, and you either go with it or you don't. And I've been playing. That's what I do. So I have to keep on playing. But Johnny's playing will always. And there's times when I'm playing on the fretboard and I play a certain riff or a line, and I think of him, and that's how I remember Johnny, is through my instrument. I'll play in a certain area. I'm like, oh wow, Johnny gave me that one, or I got that from, that kind of thing. And that's pretty cool. So sometimes I'll be there playing and I'll just start giggling or smiling, and I'm like, they don't know it, but that's a little Johnny thing. And it's a personal thing. It's pretty cool. So it was a huge honor to play with him, so.
Yeah, but everything you're saying I really appreciate, but I just want to for people who don't know your playing, you're an amazing, and I'm not like a fanboy. I'm not a starstruck guy. You're a really, really creative, really good player. I really enjoy your music. I mean, for whatever that's worth. And anybody listening to this isn't like Johnny Winter Jr.'s album. No, it's not. But I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because I think that it's probably for people that haven't sat and taken the time to listen to your stuff, that's probably the knee-jerk reaction, for better or worse. It has nothing. It has nothing to do with you. It's just like, oh, that's Johnny's. So now he's doing Johnny's. This is nothing remotely like a Johnny Winter. I mean, there's influences of Johnny in there, but they're like everybody, like 50 other guys who are putting out albums this year.
And you're correct, and that's why I didn't want to come right out of the box and do that, because of course he's doing that. Oh, and he's gonna play Johnny this and that. No. I just whatever poured out of me, and this is from a love of fusion, a love of country, a love of jazz, a love of rock, a love of whatever, all those different styles. I just had to get this out of me. I had to do it, and maybe I'll do a blues album the next thing, but this one had to be me. Otherwise, it's like, what's he doing?
No, I give you credit for that, because I think it took a bit of courage to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I give you credit for that, because it's you almost were the underdog without even having gone to bat yet. I mean, I just know human psychology, and so I really give you a lot of credit. And this is and if nobody likes it, which I'm really glad loads of people like it. No, you can sleep at night knowing, man, it's not because you didn't put 110%. This thing is fucking amazing. You're smoking on here, man.
Thank you. And it becomes part of your lifelong catalog. You're stuck with it, and
but it's a good thing.
Proud of being stuck with this one.
You should be, man.
So the next one, I think I'm going to do a blues album, and I got some surprises coming, so I'm psyched.
Tell me your story about John Paul Jones in the meanwhile.
All right, so I'm doing Warren Haynes' Xmas Jam.
Yeah.
And we've invited...
Up in Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've invited Warren to sit in with us on Used to Love Her, but It's All Over Now. So Johnny knows that's the song he's sitting in on. So we're backstage, getting ready to go on, and Warren comes up and he says, Paul, can we have someone else join Johnny on stage? I go, he's not really big on that, We're trying to get his health together, and he really doesn't like surprises. I mean, it took a big effort to get him down here, and he's ready to play the song with you, but it would just throw him off unless it was free. And whoever it was, the guest was standing behind me, and I'm just like, can't do it. And he points to John Paul Jones. He goes, but it's, and I look, and now I'm going, oh my God, it's him. But what has to come out of my mouth is no.
Oh, so you had to stay firm on that. No.
Yeah. So now he's got a puss on. Like, you. Not only am I insulted, but do you know who you're insulting? Like, he himself, and I feel real. I go, look, I feel real bad, but this is just not going to happen. So then Warren goes even further. He says, yeah, but how about just like a 12-bar blues? I go, no.
Johnny just didn't like that.
I go, you can't do it. I go, it's not. Yeah, I go, nothing against you. I'm sure you know a 12-bar blues. I go, it's just not going to happen. And I'm like, I hate to be the bringer of this news, and Warren's looking at me like I lost my mind. And I'm just like, on behalf of Johnny.
Yeah. So what was it? Johnny just didn't like playing with multi.
He didn't want guests. He does his thing. He plays. He goes through the set. He doesn't want any extra time added on. And that he starts. He stops on a dime. Boom, out of there. Go on to the next one.
Interesting. So everybody's got their own thing, and that was his thing.
That was his thing. And I go, had I known ahead of time, but Warren's looking at me like, have you lost your mind? You're saying it. And I'm thinking inside myself going, I've lost my mind, but I can't, on behalf of Johnny, say, and then all of a sudden show up with this bass player, switch basses, and not even.
God.
Johnny's already playing.
So
he's getting ready to go on, and I'm like standing there with my guitar, turning around, having this discussion, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm like, no. And the look I got from John Paul Jones.
so you on John Paul Jones' shit list, basically, from that?
But I guess, but I'm sure he's.
I mean, what are you going to do? It's just an awkward.
But I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And then I'm thinking, wow, that was pretty funny. Yeah,
wow.
there were a lot of those moments.
Wow.
That would be like having Johnny walk on at the Lincoln Center,
Well, yeah, that would be like someone telling Johnny, no, you can't sit in, I mean, that's like, he's one of the gods of that era.
We were playing at Central Park in New York, and Johnny's old manager said to James Cotton, no, you can't sit in.
Holy shit.
And Cotton just grabs his harp and walks right on stage. He goes, yeah, right.
How did that go over with Johnny?
Well, we were playing with James Montgomery on harp at the time. So James Cotton comes out. So he goes, okay, James, hit it.
Holy shit.
He never knew. But he did say, boy, James Montgomery sounded a lot different tonight. He didn't even turn around.
So was it two harp players then?
2 harp players. He goes, boy, that was a weird sound. He goes,
so he never even knew.
No, he never even acknowledged. He just sang forward and that's it. Go through the set. Yeah, Central Park.
Wow. Where are you originally from? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Manhattan.
I thought so, man. You sound so New York.
Yeah, it's weird. But then my parents moved to Connecticut, where they started they had a dance studio.
Cool.
So that's the music connection there.
Where'd you go to high school? Up in Connecticut?
Yep. And then I went to Berkeley.
Interesting. What was your childhood like growing up?
Normal.
Very good. You have any brothers and sisters?
One sister.
She involved in music at all?
Played a little bass, actually. Pretty good at it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Didn't pursue it, but yeah. But yeah, the musical background was just hearing dance music, whatever. Yeah.
So how did you get into playing?
Then I knew I wanted to pursue it, so I was in a bunch of cover bands. You learn all the cover tunes, and then I said, well, if I'm going to really do this, I need to go to school for it. So I applied to Berkeley. I got in, and then I went there. And then at the same time, I knew that everybody was starting to sound the same at Berkeley. So I went out and I looked for private instruction. I always wanted to find the best guy. So So then I went and sought out Steve Vai because he was in the Massachusetts area in Boston. So I took lessons from him. And then when I got back home, I looked up Stern at a place called the Jazz 55 Bar, approached him. And then Steve Kahn was a huge influence. Steve Kahn was like a big 70s fusion guy. Played with the Brecker brothers, that kind of thing. I think he was one of the. Actually, it's pretty weird. I saw footage of him on the David Letterman show when the Letterman show was first around, and Steve Kahn had taken the place of Hiram Bullock one night on the show, and he was the in-house guitar player, and Johnny was the guest.
That's
wild. He did Johnny Be Good, and Johnny just tore it up. So it was like a weird, eerie kind of connection there. So
yeah, that is weird. So you took lessons from Steve Vai, Steve Kahn, and Mike Stern. That's really interesting.
Yep.
Now, all of those guys, I don't know Steve Kahn, but Stern and Vai, that's nothing like what you're playing. That's interesting.
No, you should hear my album before this called Look. It's all fusion.
Wow. Yep. Interesting. Yep. So were you like academic oriented or like, yeah. So that's why you knew you wanted to get because you seem like someone like you're very thorough in what you do. And
very theory, sight reading. Cause I knew I had, if I'm going to do this, I have to have everything together.
Right.
So I played in orchestras, wrote music, that kind of thing. Yep. And then I get with Johnny and just throw it all out the window.
Yeah, but that's after years and years of execution. Yeah. So what made you so what's the word I'm looking for? You seem like you're very driven to be not successful, because that indicates money. Not that there's anything wrong with making money, but you seem very you want to do things the right way. Where'd you get that from?
I think it just developed, from practicing so much and rehearsing and this and that. I think all musicians get some sort of OCD, at different levels. I mean, everybody gets that. If you're a successful person, you got to have to have some form of that. I don't want to say I'm loaded with it, but that's what creates the drive. You're constantly striving to have perfection in the studio, and you're trying to learn this riff correctly, this part, this the kind of thing. So it kind of structures the way you do things, and also a business sense. You can't just be a musician anymore. I like the whole concept of just the music field. So I justify it by never leaving the umbrella of music. So I can do engineering, I can produce, I can play, I can any kind of setting, as long as it's under the category of music. Then I'm happy that I'm in my element. So part of it is having a good business sense and promotion and knowing how to speak and working with Johnny. He had me do things that weren't just playing. I had to help his career out, help him with a comeback. So, I was speaking with record companies and this and that. A musician just can't sit back and say, okay, I'm great, and give me all the stuff. You can be taken advantage of. So you have to know contracts. You have to know, you have to speak with attorneys. You have to know how to talk to lighting guys, how to talk to promoters, how to, Warren Haynes is one of those type of guys. Yeah. Warren Haynes is a networker, playing with all these different bands and having that career. He's got a great management company at Hardhead Management or whatever. So I love all the aspects of it. But the thing is, I love playing first, playing. And for some reason, I was always called to, you're really good at doing this. I'm like, I just want to play. Well, you're really good at it. I just want to play. So there's always been that struggle between, why don't you go into music this or become a record guy or whatever. I love playing, and fortunately I've had enough success where I can do that. But I really love the producing end of it. It's a good livelihood. My phone's always ringing off the hook for playing and producing. Producing allows me to meet musicians to play with, and so it's a business. It's a way of life. I'm recording now with artists. I'm doing a lot of projects. So I'm always busy. And now, with my own stuff and Sony, I'm touring. So, I'm being booked. I'm doing shows in states and countries. So I'm fortunate. It's very difficult for musicians now. I think it's the most difficult it's ever been. It's difficult for club owners. The economy, that kind of thing. I don't want to get too deep, but it's really rough, and I think we're going to start seeing a big shift and a loss of a lot of musicians that just can't afford to do it.
Well, we're in this world, man. With this, everybody's on here on the phone. Everything's on the computer. People don't even want to leave the house.
No, it's supposed to be free. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah. I'll just see it. Somebody else will video for me, and I'll just watch it. But
I'll see it on YouTube in the morning.
Yeah. Again, there is something about a live performance. I'm not just saying that so they come to shows.
Of course.
But there is something about it.
Yeah.
It's a social gathering. It's how people, the community keeps in touch. It's a society. It's an event. It's the way to get out. It helps relationships. Hey, let's go out and do something.
Absolutely.
But and if it's good, it's even better. But I know that people's income is different, and so what they do is they want to get the best bang for their buck, so they go to the best show that money can afford, and there's less money being spent on iffy kind of performances or groups, whereas before people used to go to actually help out a band. Hey, I'm going to throw my money.
I want to support so-and-so.
Now it's like, you know what, I only have so much money, I'm going to see a good thing. And it could be some retro, it could be some generation 80s thing or 90s thing, just because they never saw them, and then because they see that, now they're not going to go see this new bands. I don't know how they're, I don't know how they're forming or staying together. The touring, the expenses, it's really rough. But like I said, fortunately, I've established enough of a reputation where I am in demand in that respect, and so that's what I've been doing, and it's really working out good, because those who stay with it, the top of the pyramid, or that it's not as big as you would think.
No, so it's not crowded at the top; it's crowded at the bottom, man.
Right. So if you can stick with it, you'd be surprised how much fun and how rewarding it can be. But man, you got to give up a lot to do it, and a lot of people.
That's in anything. That's in any endeavor. Yeah. You know, business, whatever. It's no free lunch. Yeah. No one's handing out money.
Yeah, and it's the aesthetics. It's writing, it's painting, it's that kind of thing. And the first thing that starts going are those kind of occupations, artists, and they start getting really in bad shape, and you see these depressing things happen to these artists, even successful ones. But and there's more people on the planet, so it doesn't make sense that they're, So you're selling more records to more people, but it probably evens out decade-wise. There were so many people on the planet then, so many things sold versus now or whatever.
Well, I think there's so much bootlegging now too, to be honest with you, man.
Everybody assumes everything's for free.
Yeah, everybody, and they're indignant about it if it's not. Like, and I have a tough time with, because, like, imagine you told somebody, "Hey, we're not going to pay you when you come to your job this week."
Yeah,
just to let you know.
And
but that's
there's more ways to have a revenue stream.
Yeah, right.
You just got, that's what I'm saying, that business end of it. You can't just, you gotta know, getting royalties from this type of thing, from video, from whatever the revenue stream is to knowing that it exists and latching onto it and getting on the bandwagon and doing it. You have to be well-rounded in that respect. Otherwise, you got to start hiring attorneys and managers and that, and nobody can afford that starting off. So that's the hardest part for a struggling artist, is they may be great, and they need a manager, and they need an attorney, but they can't afford it, and they need a booking agent. And nobody can take that kind of chance now, because it's financial suicide. Yeah. So it's a tough time. But fortunately, I'm working, I'm playing, and I'm loving it. So, and I'll continue to put out records. I'm doing good.
You're aware. You have a really good awareness of stuff, which is not just unusual. It's just unusual. That's the word I was searching for before. What I was curious is, where'd that level of awareness come from? That's just your drive. That's just
sink or swim. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan. You got to pursue education. There's one thing for street smarts, but man, you couple that with regular smarts.
Yeah, and you got a good package. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. No, I'm with you on that. I'm a big guy.
And when you're working with a web designer, when you're working with an engineer, when you're talking to an attorney, there's always somebody in the band that used to be just the promotion person, and everybody said, "Oh, let them do it. They'll promote the band." That person goes into real estate, or all of a sudden they become a great salesman, or this and that, or a record head, or they own their own studio. They're developing, they're listening, they're being educated. So, the education is a big part of it. You always have to say, "What if?" And that was a big thing with Johnny too. I mean, he knew he was getting older, and he knew he wouldn't be around all the time. He knew he pushed the envelope. So it was like, what if this? So, I still work with his estate and keeping his legacy going. There's a Johnny Winter Foundation for the Arts starting up. So there's all kinds of things that I'm working with besides what I do. Again, guys like Warren Haynes, guy like Steve Vai with their own record company. Where before, if you spread yourself too thin, it wasn't appreciated. Oh, they're selling out. Now, the degree of musicianship and the artist's career is gauged by how many things they do.
As it should be, because I get the sense in interviewing loads of guys that there's still a tremendous sense of the struggling. It's noble to be a struggling artist.
Right.
And
those are the artists that felt, if I do anything other than practice and play, it's going to affect my playing. Because those are the guys that all of a sudden, they're painting a house and they're going, well, how is painting going to benefit? Well, if I had to paint a house, I'd say, well, play some music while you're painting and study the chord changes. Right. Justify it. Don't go, oh, no, I'm painting and now my calluses are going. So you got to look for, but we're at a really good time in that respect where you can do a lot of different styles on a recording.
Totally.
Different styles playing out live. You can network. You're appreciated for it. You can do commercials. You can do this. You see guys like Warren Haynes again, Bonamassa, even the Grateful Dead with John Mayer.
Let me tell you, the Grateful Dead.
He's in the Grateful Dead. How did that happen? How did Steve Morris get in Deep Purple?
Right.
They needed a day job.
Right.
It's that simple. How did friggin' Vinnie Moore get in UFO? How did Vivian Campbell in Def Leppard? He's been in there for years. They needed a day job. Yeah. You see these artists and you see them in the magazine papers. What are they doing in between? Their managers or themselves are looking for opportunities, and that's like with any business. So that's important. And I do the same thing. So you have to diversify what you do, the producing, the working with other artists, the playing, the engineer, whatever. So it's important to teach and have people be aware that you're not killing your craft, you're actually enhancing it, and you're opening up your possibilities for networking.
For sure.
I can tell you how many artists I've found through producing. Hey, why don't you play on my record? You're already producing it. I heard you play pretty good guitar. And then everybody laughs in the studio, and it's like, yeah, okay. And now all of a sudden I'm on the record. Right. I don't force myself.
Of course.
Interest, but hey,
no, but it's an obvious thing though. If they're sitting there with Paul Nelson, and you need a guitar player, it'd be like,
Yeah, look at Steve Vai. I'm sure he's been offered opportunities, or you come on tour with me. Well, he's actually done that, where he's gone on tour, or even Warren Haynes, the artist that his management company is working with, will go on the road. Like Bill Evans or those kind of guys, where they're or Marcus King is now on tour because it keeps it in the family and it's easy to do.
Absolutely.
So the artist just has to weigh whether I'm getting a full treatment or I'm just a tag along, and because the main artist always comes first. That's a whole nother story. So the guys that work it really correctly, it's fair to everyone. So and like I said, Warren's great at that. Vi's got the favored nations, that kind of thing. So you see more musicians starting record companies, starting production companies, owning their own studios, restaurants. Buddy Guys and BB Kings.
That's true.
So there you go.
That's true. Talk for a second about Johnny. We talked about this before, and you said you're doing more work with Johnny, and you were required to do more. What was the name of the Johnny Winter documentary?
Down and Dirty.
Okay, Down and Dirty. For anybody who didn't see Down and Dirty, I'd really encourage you to watch it. It's really a great movie and very interesting. And Paul was and is the person who in the movie pretty much saved Johnny's life by, I guess, scaling back his methadone. Was that what it was?
Yep,
yeah. Yep. And unbeknownst to him, it saved his life. And you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, it's kind of like what you hear what Tom Petty did with one of his idols. But I knew, like I said, I started off musically with Johnny. That's all I ever wanted to do in the beginning. But I knew that my idol, something was wrong. And he was being managed by a pretty reputable bad guy. And so it was kind of like, don't ask any questions, that kind of thing. So after I became, none of this was intentional, but after there was a trust and a musical kind of thing, I saw that things were going on. And I saw the shape Johnny was in. So eventually I took things into my own hands, and Johnny asked me to help him out. So this just became one of the things, and one of that was to clean him up. So the movie, Down and Dirty, he actually saw the whole movie. We saw it at South by Southwest. He sat in the theater. I bought him some popcorn, and he was like, oh, happy about it. And It's deep. It's about an elderly statesman of the blues. It's about blues history, rock history, his history, all the stuff that people want playing. But there's also the relationship we had, Johnny cleaning his act up, and what it was like to be a successful musician in that period of your career. And it captured a lot of stuff. There's moments in there where people are really sad and really happy, and you see him happy and enjoying himself. You see him get healthier in the movie. It's filmed a 3-year period. You see him gain weight. It's like pretty amazing. So there's all these stories in there interwoven, and it follows Johnny and I to Japan and China, and when he was re-gifted his Rock and Roll or Blues Hall of Fame award. It goes to his home and that kind of thing. But it was at a time where I wasn't with Johnny in the 90s. I was with him at the beginning of the 2000s, and he had done so much stuff and was so recluse because of management and what he wanted to put into his system that he was being written out of history. You know, everybody was talking about being with Muddy Waters and this and that, and Clapton was latching onto groups, and B.B. King was playing with U2 and all that kind of stuff, but Johnny was just, and he was just as good, if not better. So I knew it was time to do something about Johnny once he got a little healthier. So I contacted the record label, and they said there's this director that wants to work with Johnny, and he had done the Lemmy DVD, the Motorhead one.
Right.
The documentary, and I saw it. I'm like, wow, this is metal, but the editing, the closeness, the style of it, this would be perfect. So I asked him to come on the road with us, and he followed us around for 2 or 3 years, and went everywhere with us, and got footage and edited it together. And this Down and Dirty DVD came out, and it's really a testament to comeback, friendship. There's a lot of cameos, so there's something there for everybody. And it's really starting to grow and grow, and everybody's starting to purchase it and see it. It's being played in the theaters. We just played it in Key West in the theater there. And, it's an important film for many reasons. So, again, Johnny Winter, Down and Dirty. It's available worldwide. But it's got Billy Gibbons in it, Clive Davis, who signed Johnny originally, largest deal of its time.
Yeah, that's right. They gave him like $50,000 or something like that at the time, which is
it's 600 or maybe $50,000 a record, but it was like 600,000 or whatever. But that's the guy that discovered Whitney Houston, and he brags about finding Johnny. Billy Gibbons, Joe Perry, Warren Haynes, Derek Truck, Susan Tedeschi, Egger, of course. There's shots from Muddy in there. His time with Hendrix. Tommy Shannon tells some funny stories. And it's a road thing, and you see Johnny and all his frailties and his strengths. And it's something that's an eye opener, especially in this drug kind of atmosphere right now. This opioid, you see a rock star going, you know what? If I did change anything, I wouldn't have done all that crap. I would have been just as big, but it would have saved me a lot of aggravation, health problems. So it's pretty cool.
I think that was also you basically saved his life.
Yeah,
but by I mean, like, behind his back, sort of.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like cool.
Because if he had have known, he would have went back, and it's like when people quit smoking, they stop smoking, and then they come back and they smoke twice as much.
Right.
And this was I had seen something on HBO called Methadonia, and it talked about people on methadone that were taking antidepressants to get higher than the original high. And I'm like, oh my God, that's him. And then I saw his medication, and he's doing it. He didn't even know he was doing it. He did it because he was depressed, and his manager got him some pills for depression. So he was piling this stuff on, and he wasn't supposed to, whereas people were doing it intentionally around him. He was doing the same thing and didn't know it. So I started speaking with doctors. I didn't tell the doctors how far I was going, but I got all their information. And in between all the other stuff, the playing, the touring, and working with his career and helping him out and that kind of thing, I did this, but I was under I talked with the powers that be, but I didn't tell him I was going to get him completely off of it. And I worked it, and I talked to people, like I said, Leslie West. I met up with him, and doctors and people that had done that. And the movie shows people know I did something, but they didn't know exactly how I did it. And this shows actually what happened.
This shows, I mean, exactly
and
how
it's
you did
very
it.
emotional because the director said, hey, you've talked about up to the point about the day you told him he was completely off. You wouldn't happen to have that footage, would you? And I go, I think it's on my phone, because we always took cell phone things during the holidays, that kind of thing. And I go, I don't know. It's really deep. It's really personal. Should he goes, you have to show it. He goes, you've led people up. They want to be there that night. What happened when he opened that pill and there was nothing in it? And so that footage, there's people crying in the theaters. It's pretty intense. And I get emotional because I remember the evening. But it was, and then after that, he was just, chains had been lifted, he said. And he didn't have any withdrawals. He didn't know.
Yeah, but it was a very loving thing you did, and in the way you did it was.
He was like a father. He was a friend. Yeah. We lived like literally 6 miles away. But when we got off tour, we went bowling.
Yeah.
Try getting a blind albino to go bowling without getting hit with a ball. Did it. We did it. A lot of gutter balls.
He and his brother seemed pretty close. I mean, they performed pretty much on and off together their whole careers, which was always nice.
The only one that kept apart was the old management. Yeah, because it was one of those situations where things slipped through the cracks, and a bad person was still around doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you did a really nice thing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's talk about gear for a few. Oh, I want to ask one question about to shift back. Everybody pays tuition in our careers, no matter what we do. And I was wondering if you'd be kind enough to share one or two mistakes or tuition that you've paid early in your career that, what the lessons you might have learned from those mistakes. If you made any.
I don't think I did. I tell you, I'm so happy.
Are you serious?
Everything, wow. Every magazine I wanted to be in, everything as a kid, you read those magazines like, oh man, imagine if I was ever in this, or if I did an interview, I'd talk about this pickup, like you're going to ask me about equipment, or, this one's that kind of thing. And I'd love to play with this band or play with this artist. I can't, it's like, now it's just like, I've done it, and now it's just like extra sprinkles and extra cherry on top. It's like
fantastic.
Like, cool. So I'm really happy in that respect. I've toured the world. People say, "Hey, did you ever go to France?" It's like, yeah, 47 times. It's great. I've been everywhere. Maybe I didn't go to Australia. That's one again. That could be next. But no. If I made any mistakes, it's because I didn't get somewhere quicker than I did.
That's not a mistake. That's a
mistake. It's the luck of the draw. Yeah. But I had a lot of ducks in the water, or whatever that expression is, and so if you practice and you do it, people talk and you get work. So I'm good in that respect. Nothing. I'm not a big drug thing. No drugs. No alcohol. Did nothing. So awesome. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I thought you were kidding at first, but I mean, no. I think that goes back to the awareness thing, and you're so focused on, accomplishing positive stuff and not dwelling in anything negative. I think, and that comes through loud and clear, man. And yeah.
There's no room for drugs and drinking all down on the road either. You couldn't keep up the pace. The amount of hours, it's just insane. I don't care what your mode of transportation, if it's a friggin' spaceship or a jet or a van or whatever, any level of musician can't keep up that pace if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah,
in a good way,
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't.
And especially long term. Sure, you may. Oh, I'm doing every drug in the book, and I'm successful. I'm making money. But then, boom, you're done. You either eradicate yourself from the planet because you take such a dive. No, I like maintaining a level career.
Yeah,
not just a boom boom up and down kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the guys I appreciate. The ones that are always there. They call them turtle artists. Artists that are always doing something. I come from a big, long line of session guys. I was groomed to be a session guy. You put the right hat on for the right situation. You got to play a country thing, not a physical hat, but a country frame, jazz frame, a fusion frame of mine. That's why I got the calls. Hey, do you play this? Of course I do. I have no idea what he's talking about, but learn it in 5 minutes.
Never say no. Yeah, always say yes to everything. Yeah, of course. It's called.
And you have to time everything. So yeah, nothing, no complaints, nothing.
Awesome, man.
Good. Sorry.
No, not sorry. No, that's great. I mean, no, that's wonderful. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's talk gear for a few minutes. What's your go-to guitar right now, and maybe what other 2 guitars of yours would round out your top 3? Which is probably hard in a collection of 50.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Depending on the situation, whether I want a thick sound, because of the different styles. Even on that recording, I had to have something for everything, and then doubling it, I double with different guitars. So I worked with Warren Haynes' tech. He brought me a ton of instruments and that kind of thing, so I had a lot at my disposal. But I always have a trusty I use a T5, a Taylor acoustic, for recording acoustic parts. Matter of fact, I'm working with the singer for 98 Degrees. I'm doing some acoustic parts for something. Electric, always like the thickness of a Les Paul, always like the funk and blues tone of a Strat. So I have those. I have my own signature guitar. Delaney built me a PN Junior, Paul Nelson Jr., which is a Les Paul Jr.
Les Paul Jr. I think I saw that. When I was researching you. Yeah,
that one came out cool. GJ2 guitars I use. Amplifiers. I'll use anything from Music Man's because of Johnny to Marshalls. I use the Silver Anniversary series, like the Bonamassa one. I've been using that for a long time. JCM 900s, JCM whatever, Plexis, whatever's in the studio. Or I love Supers with 410s, but I run in stereo a lot most of the time. So I split my signal so I can use any kind of amp, and I just need the amp for power. It doesn't. I mean, speakers matter. It's always good to have beefy speakers, Celestians or JBLs or whatever, EVs. Sorry, whatever. But I split the signal out of a chorus, which has a long and a short delay on either side. So the signal will go in. I use 2 distortion pedals, like a Tube Screamer and like an OD1. I'll either put them both on or single. I like putting them both on for rhythms. It's thicker. And then that goes into an EP booster, especially for the Strat. It boosts the signal. It adds a little more oomph. Everybody's using those, whatever kind. The boosters are good. So then from there, I go into whatever effect. It could be the effects are always set up the shortest sound wave to the longest. So your distortions have a real quick kind of sound wave, and then the more whoosh, a flanger, a phase, and then chorus, and then delay is the last big thing. So I split from a chorus and go into 2 delays, long and short. It's pretty much set it and forget it. I don't do that much with the timing of each song live, sitting on your banging on the thing and setting it for the time. But I have a pedal board that allows me to, so no matter what backline I use, I can go in any situation and still get my sound. Recently, I've been using this thing made by Big Joe Pedals. It's a lithium power pack, because the biggest problem of traveling all over the planet is the inconsistency of current. That's why you see
the chords.
You see a lot of guys using the Variac systems, and they're adjusting the voltage, and they're testing this because your echo sounds too echoey, your distortion, you start losing sustain, and you can't play. It's like you can't be expressive. So what I do is, it depends from venue to venue. It depends from country to country. I have this power source that daisy chains to all the pedals, and it gives you a reading of fully charged, 100, 99, 98, 91, 0, and then you start freaking out. But it powers the pedals consistently like a battery would.
Right.
So a lot of my distortion pedals I use, 9-volt batteries in.
How long does that last?
It lasts a couple shows.
Okay.
And it's fully rechargeable in a second.
That's great.
And distortion pedals, I've always used batteries because it's not an anal thing, but there's something about the tone of a one-day, or when a battery loses its current in a pedal. Different brand batteries lose the power at different degrees and amounts, and quicker or shorter. So some batteries actually sound better when they've got like a day of use on them. Like strings sound a little bit better when they're a little bit one day worn in. The pedals sound better. So this power source imitates the same strength of that sweet spot worn out, not totally worn out, but that battery kind of voltage, and it's consistent. So I get a consistent sound from any venue to any, at the Iridium in New York or like an outdoor thing with, 10,000 people, whatever, like with the government mule or whatever. But that's really saved my ass, because the minute I plug into something and everything's plugged in to a power source, I can tell something's wrong here. And musicians always have that problem. It's like, oh, this pedal's bad. I got to replace this. Oh, get me another this. My distortion's gone. Maybe it got hot. Maybe it was cold. And it's always, oh, it's the current. It's the current.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Through getting rid of a lot of pedals.
Yeah.
Freaking out. And having your board go on fire in friggin' Croatia or Serbia. It's like, that's just a power, and you avoid that. You don't have to worry about changing the ampage, from 120 to whatever. You're blowing up, electric razors over there and whatever. Microwaves are exploding. But you bypass all that. I also like that Quilter amp. Holsworth used that. That's got Celestians built in it. Very warm, sweet sounding amp for fusion and legato lines. I love that amp. I love Rivera amps. I use DR strings. I have an endorsement with them at Pure Blue Strings. Straps, I got a company. Slides, I got a company. But I got a lot of stuff.
I was just thinking you could sell Paul Nelson slides when they open it up. It's a photo. It's a picture of your finger.
Yeah, but whichever finger.
It's selling air.
Yeah, there you go.
Play slide like Paul Nelson.
Just a finger. Just use your own finger. That's the note.
There you go.
I can tell you a joke. Thinking of that, opening up something the other day. It has nothing to do with music whatsoever. It's the first thing that ever happened. I'm on the road, and I'm having food at a Chinese restaurant, and you get the fortune cookie at the end.
Yeah.
And I open up the fortune cookie, and how you have it gives you your favorite numbers and your horoscope and a little saying. So I read the saying. It goes, "Open another cookie." Just about talking, not expecting something. I'm like, did the guy to write these give up?
Yeah, open another cookie.
I'm tired of this. Just open up another cookie.
Yeah, I'm done.
So that's like open it up and see. Yeah, use your finger. It was like the same kind of shock. I'm like, oh my God, I've never. This guy.
I think there's something to this, Paul. The Paul Nelson slide. Yeah. Play slide like Paul Nelson.
Yeah. Open another cookie.
Unreal.
Yeah, that was the funniest thing. Apparently, there's only one guy that writes these damn things.
Yeah, I saw that article like in the New Yorker many years ago. Yeah, something like that.
It's like one guy, and now he looks up on a computer and he writes all this. So this guy just said, "You know what? I'm sick of this. Just open up another damn cookie."
Yeah.
So I got that one, and I'm like, wow, maybe I get some kind of, like a Willy Wonka thing. Maybe I get the golden a trip to whatever.
The golden ticket.
Yeah, so that was cool.
That is cool, man. So your setup is not really complicated. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's with the stereo.
I hate knobs.
Yeah.
Too many volume, too many tones, too many this. But the amp has to have treble, bass, and mids. I don't use that much reverb unless I'm playing a clean blues amp mono. Then I put a little reverb on to get, if I'm striving to get a tone of a certain kind of blues or a certain kind of, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, but for my sound, that's it. Yep.
As far as music goes, if I asked you to pick your 3 favorite albums in no particular order today, what would be your knee-jerk reaction?
Billy Cobham, Spectrum.
Oh, wow.
Tommy Bolin. Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow.
Tommy Bolin, what an amazing freaking guitar player that dude was.
Yep.
Oh.
Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow. And
great.
What else? These are like Guitar Head.
Oh, yeah. You kidding me?
I like, there's so many.
He's, it's unfortunate. Again, guy passed from drugs, but what a guitar player that Tommy was. I mean, just a monster.
Oh yeah. And he was the bridge between rock and jazz or whatever fusion. He was the guy.
Well, even that one album he was on with Deep Purple was phenomenal.
Come Taste the Band.
Yeah, what a great album that was. And they had two. They had a live album too where he did. It was his live album was even great.
Oh yeah. Warren Haynes is a big fan of his too. There's supposedly more material coming out. I think they wanted me to do like some kind of. I got a couple calls where they wanted me to play. It might have been with his brother to put some kind of thing together to do this. I don't want to say a tribute, but just something. So there was something. It still may be in the works, but yeah.
Did you ever listen to Gary Moore?
Oh hell yeah! He recorded in the studio. I recorded that still got the blues album. And we actually did shows with him at No Toad in Norway. No Toad Fest. That's a biggie.
That's cool.
Any
cool Gary Moore stories?
No, but he was again that bridge between rock and blues and almost fusion, that kind of thing. I forget the album, but the big one, of course, was Still Got the Blues. But there was a lot of other stuff before that and stuff with Thin Lizzy.
Oh, he's got about 50 albums out in total. I have them all on
some
digital.
of it's on the verge of fusion, and it's shredding stuff.
Awesome stuff.
But he got a lot of flack for rocking the blues,
But he's another guy. His tone, when it was on, was phenomenal. Was just
exactly clean, cranked,
beautiful. Beautiful stuff. And of course his vibrato was golden,
Oh, absolutely. When you got the right tone, it plays like butter. Yep. That's the key.
Hey, tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd.
That's a rough one. I like to bowl.
Yeah, you know what? That was a little odd when you said that. Try getting an albino guy to go bowling with you. That was an introverted albino guy to come out and go bowling. I like to bowl. That's a good one, man.
I bowled the perfect game once.
Did you really?
Cool. Yeah.
So you're like a serious bowler.
Well, I did. I had a drink of soda and I had an ice cube. And I had an ice cube in my mouth, and I screamed so loud because I was happy to get the last strike that the ice cube got stuck in my throat and I couldn't breathe. So there I am. Everybody's patting me on the back going, "Oh, you got a perfect game." And I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, aren't you excited? Say something." I'm like, "I'm dying."
And you had to get Heimlich maneuver, huh?
Exactly. I was like, so I had to wait for the damn ice cube to melt, and I'm like, "You motherfucker."
Holy shit. Most important thing your dad and mom taught you?
Well, they were big supporters of the music, so that they taught me to just go for it, which I can't believe. But they were into music offhandedly through being dance instructors and that kind of thing. So I guess they couldn't really say they took me to my first lessons and all that kind of thing. So very supportive. But yeah, so
any hobbies or interests outside of music besides bowling?
No, not really. I'm batting 1,000 on this.
No, hey man, you're answering honestly. What are you going to do? Well, yeah, I mean, you're pretty immersed in what you're doing, and you're not just like playing guitar. You got a million and one things going on, so it's not like.
I love family. I love people. I love throwing a good party, getting together with that kind of thing. I love being in the East Coast. I love traveling. I love seeing new things. But again, the music allows me to do all this, so it's really cool.
Yeah,
I've actually tied it all together where it all just works, and financially and career wise, I'm pretty level headed in that respect.
Good.
Again, I always think what if, but
well, you got to have a plan B nowadays, or at least multiple streams of income coming in. You can't just like, because anything could happen on the stop of a dime. And, whether it's even silly shit like the feds change the fucking rules of whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden that goes from X to 0.
The Grammy didn't hurt.
Yeah, good for you, man. There you go. Yeah, but man, that's a byproduct of hard work. It's not like, it's not like, you lucked out, I mean,
yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why it was so important to continue to work in that field and to actually get nominated again. So it wasn't like, well, wait a minute. Okay, so this is, that kind of thing. So it wasn't
a mistake. It wasn't a,
I've been getting a lot of calls, hey, do my record, this kind of thing. So it's, and even a record label's like, right in the beginning, they're like, you got to pursue this producing thing because this is, And I was like, yeah, I love it.
Good.
So,
good.
Yeah.
One more question, man. What's the biggest change been in your personality over the last 10 years?
Nothing.
No, I don't believe that, man.
No, it's just still this. I've been just like, if you can see, like this. That's it.
Really?
I don't like this.
No, I don't like
and
that
I
either.
don't like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
But you think you're the same person today you were 10 years ago?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Holy shit. That means you're like
I have to be that way
ahead of the clock.
Everybody else goes nuts around me. I just got to maintain like that because if I blow up, everybody else has a problem.
Yeah, I hear that. Listen, man,
if the people around me can help me to maintain that, then that really helps. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let's get you some gigs. Let's do this. Let's work in this area. I appreciate that. I get a lot of help from people. I have a good staff and good people around me and a good machine, even working with Johnny and before that. So that's very important to people around you. So,
that is for sure, man.
Yep.
Listen, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I want
to edit this down to 1 minute.
No. This is great. I want to tell people where they could find you and your stuff. First of all, go to paulnelsonguitar.com.
Yep.
And if you have not listened to Paul's playing, check it out. His new album is called Badass. No, I forgot the name of it. Badass Generation.
Generation.
Yeah, it's on Sony. Badass Generation. You can find it on paulnelsonguitar.com. You can find it on all the usual places. Check it out. Listen to him on iTunes. It's a phenomenal record. It's really good. Anything else that you want to promote, or how can people send you money?
I just got to say thanks for this. These type of things help everyone. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for really enjoying the music that I put out, because I make it for you. I make it for everybody, and it's great to hear that you've listened to it and you've studied it and you've felt it. That means a hell of a lot, because and the questionings that aren't just the pet questions. I know that you've studied my whatever body of work, and I really appreciate that. It makes it a lot more comfortable. So again,
cool, man. Good.
I've done a couple of these, but this was really cool. So thanks.
Good, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Everybody, check out Paul Nelson. Paul Nelson Guitar, Badass Generation. It's a great album. Listen to it. You're really going to enjoy it. If you like blues, if you like 70s music, if you like very well-written songs, I think there's something here for you. And if you don't like it,
blues, rock, jam, everything.
It's a great album. It's a real good rock and roll album.
Somebody said once, and this was the best compliment, and this is what I was trying to achieve. They said, "It feels like a classic album that I forgot to purchase, that should be right in between my Boston and my Led Zeppelin." And I was like, that's what I want.
There you go, man.
Just wanted to give somebody the feeling of what it must have been like to open one of those and put it in your collection. I just wanted to be, that's why I really studied that and wanted to recreate that, but not to the point where it was dated. I wanted it to be now. Hence the name Badass Generation. That's a term, badass, that everybody uses to describe that generation. So that's what the title means. And that's why the cover is a picture of a cassette.
A cassette tape. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
What is the most iconic thing from that period? So I said, well, let's make it look like an Andy Warhol kind of cassette, very artistic in nature. And so now you got the answer behind everything. That's what I was trying to achieve. The next one could be a blues record, whatever, but this is what I wanted to do for this one, and I'm sticking to it.
It's great, man. It's a great record. Just go check it out, everybody. Go buy it.
Buddy.
Send Paul money. He deserves it. You do, man. You're a hard worker. Everybody.
See me on tour. The dates are on paulnelsonguitar.com, and we're playing everywhere in March and May, and it never ends, so I'm happy.
Great.
Thanks.
And if you're, and again, Jeff Beck, if you're listening, give him a shout. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again to Paul Nelson for spending time with us. I appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified about future episodes along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Now be nice, go play your guitar, and most important, have fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.